Welcome to the WVU Football Sports Chat. I'm Todd Murray, along with our WVU football writer, Joey LoMonaco. And Joey, Mountaineers coming off a 45-6 throttling of Maryland Saturday at Milan Pushkar's team. They are now in the national rankings at number 23 in the AP poll and number 21 in the coaches poll, which here in early October probably doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. What are you hearing from the players and coaches on that?
Well, it's funny you say that. It doesn't mean a whole lot. Coach Holgerson, when asked about it, actually kind of made a joke that he hadn't seen the new poll that came out on Sunday afternoon. But it is the last time the Mountaineers have been ranked since late November 2011. And the team's in a good place. They wanted to be 3-0 after 3 non-conference games. Obviously, can't be any better than that, and they did what they had to do.
And if they want to stay in those polls, they've got a tough assignment this weekend. They've got to go to Norman, Oklahoma. The Sooners are going to be waiting on them there. Last year's game, a night game in Morgantown, what sticks out, I think, in most fans' minds, Samaje Perine, Oklahoma running back, 247 yards on the ground. What is this defense going to have to do to corral this guy this weekend?
They roll into that game last year, and it's a third-string Sooners running back, Samaje Perine, as you mentioned, 247 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground. And Tony Gibson talked about that game as though it was a bit of a turning point. Several players talked about that game as though it was a turning point for this defense, especially as it pertains to run stopping. Going into this year, Oklahoma's changed some things schematically on the offensive side of the ball. You won't see as much of an emphasis, they think, on the physical run game, but Perine, obviously that memory still sticks with those defenders.
Obviously, we're going to learn a lot about Ron Crook and his offensive line this week. Oklahoma gets after the quarterback, and that line's going to be severely tested this week. What are they saying about the challenge they face?
We're going to learn a lot, better or worse, about that unit. Holgerson wasn't entirely enthused with how they've graded out over the first 3 games. Freshman left tackle Yannick Ajuste in particular has been having a little bit of trouble. He's allowed, I believe, something like a third of the team's sacks can be directly attributed to him through the first 3 games of the season. Oklahoma has Eric Stryker. He's a linebacker who can put his hand in the dirt. He can be a pass rushing outside linebacker, and he can drop back into coverage. So he's going to be a big challenge. But in talking to Ron Crook today, they're worried about the outside linebackers on both sides of the formation.
I guess, the good news is, if there is they've got Skyler Howard back there. He was not in the mix at this time last year when they played Oklahoma. It's a guy obviously has the ability to scramble and make things happen.
Absolutely, and they sprinkled that in. To hear Bob Stoops talked about it, they don't fear Skyler Howard's legs as the main running threat of this West Virginia offense. But it's something that you still have to consider, whether he's running to get out of trouble or whether here and there's a designed run. But the Oklahoma defensive coaches, and as you know, Coach Stoops in his 17th year, he has a hand in that Sooners defense. They're not worried about Howard breaking the game open with his legs, per se. Right.
A lot of talk about the relationship between Dana Holgerson and Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma's offensive coordinator. They go back a few years. They know each other well, picked each other's brains. What's that going to be like this weekend?
Well, it's funny. Coach Holgerson said, I left him 8 years ago, and he's been able to do a lot on his own since then. In that intervening time, when Lincoln was the offensive coordinator at East Carolina, Brian Mitchell, who's now on WVU staff, was the defensive coordinator there for the Pirates. Right. So he's seen him in that time, but he says he really hasn't evolved this air raid offense like Holgerson has. He's as close to Mike Leach, a Mike Leach clone in terms of scheme, as you'll see from any of those air raid disciples.
Should be an interesting Saturday afternoon in Norman. We'll find out a lot more about this WVU football team. Joey, appreciate your time as always, and please continue to follow our WVU football sports coverage on thedpost.com.